Hello, everyone. Once again, happy International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And as you know, that day commences the United Nations 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which runs through December 10th, the International Human Rights Day. To commence today, we will be having a guest on. Her name is Amina Bintu Mohammed. She is a dedicated advocate for women's and girls' rights, a dynamic entrepreneur, a poet, and a writer with a progressive career spanning over 5 years in development. Throughout Amina's journey, she has steadfastly championed the cause of women's rights, actively combating gender-based violence, and challenging stereotypes that hinder the progress of women and girls. Her notable achievements include her significant contributions to the passage of the VAP Act and the Child Rights Act in Sokoto State. And today, our conversation will be centered around response mechanisms to gender-based violence, as well as the state of Sexual Assault Referral Centres in Nigeria. The first ever Sexual Assault Referral Centre in Nigeria was established in 2013. And between 2013 and 2021, the first Sexual Assault Referral Centre was established in Lagos, and there's been over 26 more across Nigeria. And today we'll be looking at that. Amina, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today, Osas.
Okay, thank you. Considering the work that you've done over the years in the sexual and gender-based violence space in Nigeria, what would be your assessment on the state of response mechanisms put in place by either the government, government NDAs, civil society organizations, and other organizations?
Okay, thank you. So on this particular one, I do not exactly know if I want to give them percentages or I want to say, oh, over 10, this is what I'm giving them, because 1 minute, it feels like we're making progress, especially with regards to the non-governmental organization, if I'm being honest, because of course, we feel like we have all of these mechanisms in place, we have all of these bright, beautiful ideas, and we're trying to make sure that these mechanisms actually work. However, we have some bottlenecks through the system. This is because oftentimes, even as NGOs, we are not able to 100% carry out all of this, to implement all of this mechanism that we have in place. We have to partner with government agencies, MDAs, etc. And to be honest, they make the work quite cumbersome. I give you a good example now. I know you actually asked me if, so I just go ahead, probably tell you percentage, but I just want to really give context to it. I give you a good example sometime in Sokoto. So this little girl was raped, and of course, when we went to the police station, and the guy that raped her it's a small community, right? And he stays in the community. You know, small communities, usually people know each other. Yeah. So everybody knows the guy. And when they got to the police station, and he had a colored hair. So that was how she could identify him. She was a child, I think she was 3 or thereabout. And she could easily identify him by his hair, right? So when they got to the station, and they brought the guy and some other guys, and she's like, oh, that one, the one with the colored hair. And the next time they called her back again, the police asked the guy to shave his head. That's a problem, because as organizations, we are not exactly able to prosecute these offenders. We want to rely on agencies like NAPTIP, like the police, to actually come through when it comes to this. Now, these agencies we're supposed to rely on are now aiding the perpetrators. And now, there is progression due to the fact that before now, victims don't, survivors rather, I beg your pardon, don't even find it easy to come out and really point, yes. Now they're able to speak up, but then there's retrogression because they have spoken, and these supposed law enforcement agencies are actually not doing their own bit. So I don't know how I'm going to really weigh this. I just really feel like it's been a bit of a disappointment because
on the part of government agencies.
Yes, for the part of government agencies, because the non-governmental agencies, trust me, day in, day out, they put in the work.
Well, what factors would you say are responsible for all of these lapses or gaps that you've identified? Okay,
so I think one of the major factors that we day in, day out actually battle with is a lot of culture and stigma. So we for a nation, we are very, very cultural and religious, supposedly. So there's a lot of, let's keep it hush-hush. Nobody really wants to talk about these things. And because of that, even when you have people coming out, okay, I give you another example. Yeah, I mean, I have a plethora. So this woman brought her child who was raped by her brother. The woman's brother, that's the child's uncle, raped the girl. And you will not believe that her mother, that's the girl's grandmother, actually cursed her daughter because she said, why would you take the family business out? It's the family business, why are you taking it out?
Culture of silence.
Exactly, the culture of silence. So it encourages the culture of silence. And this makes even the perpetrators to be like, if you tell anybody, nothing is going to get done. And again, there is a lack of awareness. We have centers where you can actually go and report these things. In Sokoto, I know one, Nana Khadija Center does a lot of that. But people don't even know of the existence of these centers. Another thing again that aids this is the fact that there isn't, unfortunately, our legal system is very catatonic. It's not responsive one bit. So it makes it really hard for people to have faith. You just feel like I'm going to be risking a lot, personally, my reputation. If I step out there, everybody's going to point me as, oh, the girl who has been raped. And at the end of the day, nothing's going to get done.
Now, let's look at, you've already mentioned that there are some centers or there are dedicated organizations or establishments that are meant to offer first-hand responses. And we know Sexual Assault Referral Centres are one of those. And we have about, I think, 31 Sexual Assault Referral Centres across Nigeria after the establishment of the first one in Lagos. How would you assess the state of the centers and how would you assess the work that they've done over the years in terms of providing first-hand responses to survivors?
So for the centers, especially the ones, let it not look like I'm always on the side of the non-governmental organization, because I'm just being honest here. These are the ones that are quite very responsive. For the centers, they have really done, a couple of them have done a good job, especially the one that I have been with, for example, the one Nana Khadija Center in Sokoto. I know that day in, day out, the cases that get reported, let's look at days where it's not plenty, you look at 10, and they get adequate responses. There is healthcare for them. We go as far as giving them transportation. Basically, there is care, So to some extent, the centers, the SAC centers that are actually non-governmental organizations like NGO owned, they do quite the job. Honestly, they do quite the job because their responses are always like, but again, there are constraints. For example, we can look at issues of geographical disparities. Of course, a center that is located in an urban city is going to have more facilities, more professionals to actually do the work than one that you have in rural areas. We also have resources. Like, as I'm speaking to you, I think the grants that Nana Khadija got actually should have been exhausted by now. And there's that. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you really want to help, how much you really want to put in that effort to make sure that these people get justice, they get care and all of that. If you don't have resources for it, it limits you, it constrains you, and these are issues.
So now let me narrow it down. How would you assess government-owned referral centers in terms of meeting up to its responsibility of actually providing the required resources and systems that these survivors need to be properly integrated back?
I'm going to rate it, aside poor, is there another, I'm trying to find another word that describes it better than poor. It's an eyesore, because you'd expect that government-owned agencies are agencies for the people, right? Because oftentimes when they say it's for the government, especially for a nation that practice democracy, you expect that whatever mechanism they put in place, whatever institution they put in place, is to serve the people. However, they're not doing that. Let's be honest. A good example is NAPTIP. I cannot tell you the number of times they have been back and forth with NAPTIP. That's the National Agency for Prevention of Persons in
Trafficking in Persons.
Trafficking in Person, rather. Thank you very much for that. We go day in, day out, and there's plenty of drama. When I say drama, I mean drama. Sometimes you go have a case with them, they tell you, we don't have fuel, we can't go. Or, fuel the car, let's go. And then you ask yourself, is the government not supposed to allocate, from the budget, it's not supposed to allocate resources? Is that, it's either the government is not allocating resources, or...
Which they do.
Apparently, right? So there is probably misappropriation of funds somewhere, or somebody is not just passionate about the job and does not want to do the job. So to be honest, for government-owned centers, it's a terrible experience. Honestly, it's a terrible experience. And unfortunately, these government agencies are supposed to set precedents for the non-governmental organization. Like, oh, okay, wow, let's mirror this. These people are doing amazing things. Because at the end of the day, that is what is for us, right? For the people. But I mean, that's our experience so far.
Now, what barriers would you say this poses to survivors accessing resources, accessing help, assessing first-hand responses when they have cases, for example, a case of being raped, and then you want to go to a assault center to report your case, and you hear the officials there blaming the victim and all of that? How do you think this further heightens the barriers that these survivors face already?
Honestly, not only does it heighten, it deepens the courts. Because if I have any case, right, and as a survivor, and I'm trying to go report, trying to go talk about it, and I know that I'm not going to get justice, I just keep quiet. I'm just going to keep quiet, honestly. Because like I said, yeah, we have sponsored the culture of silence subconsciously or consciously. We have invested so much in the culture of silence. And how do I mean by that? Now, we made it feel like when rape happens, for example, it's the fault of everybody but the perpetrator. Oftentimes when you hear rape, the first thing everybody asks, oh, what was she wearing? Oh, what was this? What was that? What was that? Right, I give you a good example. One time I was in Kebbi to speak on sex education, right? To some university students. They invited me over and I went to talk about it. And then I just asked a question in the hall and I'm like, hi, so I have two scenarios for you. So this girl was wearing a very short skirt. I was giving them a scenario. This girl was wearing a very short skirt and she got raped. Whose fault is that? And of course, you know the answer. It's her fault. Oh, she ran. Okay. So this other girl, she's 3 months old. She got raped. She was wearing a diaper. Whose fault was it? And yeah, a lady said, oh, it's the mother's fault. She shouldn't have left her there. And I'm like, okay, so the person who raped her is her father. So as a mother, would you ever in your life
leave your child
envisage that you would have to protect your child from the father? And there was radio silence. So that goes to show you how much you're at, because you know this is what surrounds you. You know that definitely, invariably, this is what your people think, right? You are not going to want to come out to talk about these things. Now, having to now muster the courage to say, oh, right, I'm going to go and talk about this thing. I'm going to go report this person and say, oh, this person raped me. And then nothing is being done. So that is, against all odds, you have them the consequences, whatever anybody's going to say, you don't care.
Okay, now you've identified all of these factors, all of these issues. We already know the problem. The culture of silence is one of them. The lack of willpower is one of them.
So you did not allow me to actually get... I wanted to say that what you mentioned about this whole barriers I have mentioned earlier, it deepens the culture of silence in summary. That's what it does, which means it gives birth to more perpetrators. Because if I know that if I commit this crime, nothing is going to get done, I will keep doing it.
Okay, now how do we move forward in terms of changing the mindset of people, in terms of reorienting individuals to understand that, okay, you have to speak up, you have to not blame the victim, you have to blame the perpetrator? Because this is year in, year out, we come on, talk about 16 days of activism, we have these conversations, and then at the end of the day, everybody goes back and then we all fall back.
Yeah.
So
I know. I like to say that we are at a time where we have done too much talking. Enough of the talking, we need action. First and foremost, we need a system that actually name and shame prosecutes perpetrators. You are going to have a rethink. A serious rethink. That's one thing we need. We need more awareness. I understand that we've been doing a lot of awareness, right? However, I really encourage the infiltration of comprehensive sexuality education into our school system, because oftentimes people are raped and they don't even understand that they have been raped, right? I give you a good example. We normally say consent is reversible. And if anybody at some point reverses their consent, you let them be. It doesn't matter if you have had this copulation before. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of it. It doesn't matter how hard you've gotten. As soon as somebody withdraws their consent, you let them go. However, a lot of people don't even know that if this person doesn't let you go, regardless of whether you are dating them, whatever, you have a right to actually report them, because that is rape. Right? So people are not even aware of their rights. That's why every day we preach the infiltration of comprehensive sexuality education into our school system.
Right? Amina, we've spent all of our time, we've talked a lot, and you've identified some of the issues, some of the problems that we have, to include the lack of awareness, the lack of willpower on the part of government and agencies. You also mentioned the culture of silence, and in terms of addressing all of those issues, you talked about the need for more awareness and the need for the inculcation of the sexual sex education into our schools curriculum.
Yeah.
And thank God we already have a bill that has been passed by the National Assembly to ensure that secondary schools brings in or introduces sex education in their curriculums. I think if we begin to do this and we continue in terms of awareness, we continue to preach
perpetrators properly.
Prosecution of perpetrators and understanding that perpetrators should be the ones we should be shaming, especially to the media. I think I'll pass this message to the media to always focus on the perpetrators rather than the victim, or blaming the victim or spotlighting the victim. So we have a long way to go in terms of addressing gender-based violence. And this video series put together by the CGID, like I mentioned before, is part of our responsibility to contribute to the fight against gender-based violence, in line with the 2023 theme for the 16 days of activism, which is Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. Thank you, Amina. Amina is a dedicated advocate for women's and girls' rights, and she has been here on this conversation with me. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So at this point, we are going to end the conversation. The next episode will be coming to you in a matter of days, and it's going to be on another major topic around the issue of gender-based violence. My name is Osaruonamen Ibizugbe. I am a project officer at the CGID. Thank you for watching.